When good readers read aloud, they use punctuation in sentences to help guide them in grouping the words into phrases. Commas and periods indicate grouping of words. Readers pause briefly at a comma and even longer at a period. I'm going to model this with the teacher aloud, nowhere else on earth. Remember to listen carefully because I'll be asking you some questions about what you've heard. Nowhere else on earth. The marine iguana looks quite scary. You would probably run away if you came face to face with this 4 to 5 foot long lizard. However, the marine iguana is strictly a vegetarian, and it is very unlikely you'll have the opportunity to meet one unless you travel a great distance. The rare marine iguana is the only sea lizard in the world, and it can be found only in the Galapagos Islands. The Galapagos Islands are a group of islands in the Pacific Ocean about 600 miles from South America. They straddle the equator. Long ago, these islands were formed by the eruptions of underwater volcanoes. At first, nothing lived on these islands. Few species could travel the hundreds of miles that separate the islands from the continent, but today, 7,000 to 9,000 species live there. Many of the plants and animals on the Galapagos Islands are unique and live nowhere else on Earth. Years ago, when plant life was scarce on the islands, some land iguanas may have looked to the sea for food, which led to the development of the marine iguana. Marine iguanas can swim as deep as 50 feet underwater in search of seaweed and hold their breath for up to half an hour. On land, they are often found basking in the sun. Other unique species that live in the Galapagos Islands include the Galapagos giant tortoise, the blue-footed booby, and the Galapagos penguin. The Galapagos giant tortoise is one of the largest tortoises in the world and weighs up to 500 pounds. It can live to be 150 years old. The blue-footed booby is a bird named for its blue-colored webbed feet. The Galapagos penguin is the only penguin species to live naturally in the northern hemisphere. These and other unusual creatures lived on the Galapagos Islands undisturbed by humans for hundreds of years, until the 1700s. During the 1700s and 1800s, sailors stopped at the islands and carried away many giant tortoises and other animals to use as fresh meat for their long voyages. When humans began living on the islands, they brought dogs, cats, goats, and pigs with them. Species that are brought to a new environment are called introduced species. Some of these introduced species have been let go in the wild and have multiplied. There are now approximately 200,000 goats on the island that eat the plants that the native creatures eat. Today, conservation groups on the island are trying to protect the native creatures. For example, these groups raise Galapagos giant tortoises until they are about 10 years old and are able to defend themselves. The conservation groups hope to keep alive the amazing species of the islands that live nowhere else on Earth. Okay, I may have 3 questions for you. Please pause the video and have a brief discussion about what you just heard with your learning adult. What is the main idea of the article? What detail about the marine iguana supports the main idea of the article? Why do you think the author provides an example of what the conservation groups do on the Galapagos Islands?